Sparkle Squad, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Jasmine and welcome to my channel. Today's video, I am going to be doing a video on a Q&A with Ashley Wagner. So if you guys have been subscribed to my channel, you know that I was just at a camp recently for figure skating, and Ashley Wagner was one of the special guests there, and it was like a seminar and she was teaching us and everything. So I went to that camp, and one day we had this Q&A with Ashley, and that's where we got to ask her literally any question that we wanted. And I recorded the whole thing for you guys because I wanted to do a video for you guys just in case if you had any of these questions in your mind that you wanted to ask her, or maybe you wanted to just know about these questions and want to know her answer. So I tried making this video without cutting it, but in one place in the video became blurry, so we paused the camera and then restarted it. But the girl asked a really good question, and I didn't want to cut her answer off just because it was blurry. So sorry if it's a little blurry, but you guys can still hear her answer. So that's mainly the most important part. But anyways, I really hope that you guys enjoy this video. So without further ado, let's get started.
Wagner. I am a three-time U.S. national champion, an Olympic bronze medalist in the team event, and a world silver medalist. And I competed at the senior level for about 11 seasons. So I know a thing or two about competing and skating. So basically, this is your guys' time to ask me whatever you want. I will talk about anything, whether it be jumps or spins or my cat. I will answer any questions. So yeah, anything come to mind, any questions, even about competing, yeah?
What's your biggest tip for getting over a mental block on jumping?
Okay, so I think that's a great question. So you asked about mental blocks and how to get past them. So my double axel took me 4 years to land. So if that's not a mental block, I don't know what else is. And it was so frustrating, and I think that's kind of where people run into problems. They let themselves make this jump into a big, scary monster, and then it becomes so intimidating, and it's just a chore to work on every single day. So I think you have to stay really patient. Everybody's body is made for different jumps. You can't compare yourself to other athletes because some people are just made to do edge jumps way easier, and some people can do toe jumps like no one's business. So you just have to stay focused on yourself, take it day by day, and I think with jumps in particular, your coaches give you exercises to practice, and that's to develop strength and kind of get the feeling of the jump into you. So make sure you practice that. It's not a waste of time. Always make sure you go through your exercises, and eventually everything starts to click. We have to be patient. All right, next question, yeah.
When did you start skating?
I started skating when I was 5 years old. So I'm an Army brat, and we were stationed in Alaska at the time. And my dad is one of those military guys where you don't really know what he does. So he was always off in foreign countries. And my mom was trapped in the house with my brother, and I have a younger brother, so he was 3. And she was like, that's it. You're getting out of the house. She gave me the choice of ballet or figure skating. And in Alaska, they freeze over the parking lots in the winter, so you can go skate during recess. And I thought that was super cool. Right?
I want to do that. That sounds fun.
I doubt they do that now because I feel like that's probably a liability. But back in my day, no one was really as worried about kids cutting off their fingers. Things have changed. All right, next question. You guys have some good ones so far. I can answer jump-specific questions or competing. Yeah.
Will you follow me on Instagram?
So my rule of thumb is I don't follow anyone under 18. So
Okay.
unless you're on the
My dad controls my Instagram account.
That is the savviest response. But again, you're
Okay.
So, okay, next question. Oh my god. Yes.
Do you have a favorite element for skating?
I love loop jumps. Loops are my favorite thing in the entire world. And I feel like you either love them or you hate them with every ounce of your being. Alex does them. Alex never does them. So I do coach. I travel a lot right now, so mostly what I do is travel from rink to rink coaching guys like you at seminars, and then I commentate for NBC, and whenever I am home, I do coach a couple of kids, and let me tell you, they are less enamored by me because they see me every single day, and so I have to deal with the attitudes of 13-year-olds, just like all of your coaches do. So I have a new respect for coaching in general. Okay, another question. Yeah, parents can ask questions too. You can go first.
How do you deal with nerves before you compete?
Okay, so I think that everybody has something different that kind of works for them. Nerves, I have to say, they are never gonna go away. Like, you get nervous because you care. You get nervous because you train every single day for one thing, and now all of a sudden you have to make sure that it's counting when you're on the ice and under pressure. So for me, stay nice and relaxed. Some people like to kind of get into their zone and get super focused. For me, I need someone to be making me laugh and keeping me relaxed. So that was a challenge because I have a super intense Russian coach, and so he wasn't one for conversation. And so I would talk to my, we have team leaders at all of these events, so there's usually someone who's in charge of making sure you get to your event on time, and if your skates don't show up, they're the ones who are going to help you figure out how to get a new pair in. So I would usually go up to my team leader and say, like, hey, I'm really nervous, like I need someone to talk to, do you mind being there for my event? And so they would talk to me. But also, in 2015, that was my last national title, and at the boards during the NBC broadcast, you can hear me say to Raphael, I'm terrified. And because I said it and I made it something that was real, then I felt like I could deal with it. Of course, he was like, why are you scared? And I'm like, this is not what I need right now. But like, I said it and it was real, and then I was like, oh, okay, I can deal with this now. And so those are kind of what I personally do, but also everything is different for everyone. Like, I know Karen Chen likes to give her mom a really big hug and like squeezes the life out of her before she competes. So I mean, like, you gotta kind of figure it out and decide what works for you, but you have to accept, like, you're always gonna be nervous. I was just as nervous for 2018 nationals as I was for my first nationals. If nothing changes, you get nervous because you care. Yes.
Okay. I have a question actually for my older daughter who's not here. She's 16 and been skating for a while, and she would be a future, she could go pass over.
Okay.
Anyway, she started losing interest in skating. And have you gone through that? Because she's really good, but she just like, okay, I want to do something else.
So I think for parents, one, that's normal. Like, I went into the rink and trained pretty much every single day, starting from like, I mean, it obviously was more as I got later into my career, but pretty much from 5 on, I skated, and that was what I did. And it is a mentally exhausting sport, and you end up going through a lot as an athlete. And so my advice to that is, allow her the opportunity to try something else and keep on skating, but like adding something new and fresh sometimes reminds people, oh wait, I'm really good at this, I really like this. Like, I think just adding something else into the equation can usually help bring a little bit more life back into skating. But also sometimes people get to a point where they're just like, I'm good, I'm happy with what I've done, and I think that skating is a really, really hard sport, so if you're not all in, it's just going to always be an uphill battle. So, yeah. Yes?
Is there an ideal balance between spending time with a coach on the ice and independent practice?
I think that it's different for every single athlete. One thing, so I train up in Boston, and I work out of the skating club of Boston, and every single kid in that rink is in a lesson for their entire time on the ice. And to be first of all, my parents would not pay for that many lessons. But also, I think that kids need to know how to train by themselves. They need to know how to practice by themselves. because, you know, you have a coach at the boards during competition, but your coach isn't out on the ice, like skating through a program with you. You have to be able to do it independently. So I think that obviously time and money come into play, and I came from a family that was not well off, and my mom's entire paycheck went to skating. So like, I totally understand that like sometimes you just can't have a lesson every single day, and that's okay. But what I would do to kind of combat that, I would, after a lesson or after my day of training, I would write down what my coach told me. And that way, when I was training by myself, I would have the exercises that my coach and I had run through. I would have the reminders that she told me. And that was kind of how, while I was training independently, I was able to kind of make sure that I was still at least following some kind of routine that my coach would want me to practice with. All right, next question. Yes?
How much did you train a week?
So when I was a senior athlete, I trained 4 hours a day on the ice and then 2 hours a day off ice. So my first session in the morning, I would come in and I would do skating skills and just kind of warm up my body. Second session would be focused on my short or long program depending on the day. So I would do my full run through, and then I would start doing sections. And then I would do my short program on the next session. Same thing, full run through, sections. And then the last session of the day would be dedicated to technique, footwork, spins, and choreography. And then off the ice, depending on the day, I'd either be running on the treadmill or biking. I would be doing a lot of core work, and I have the hips of an old dog, so I would always be doing like glute, back, and leg work. Okay, next question, yes.
So I have a problem with circling and being afraid to try new jump.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice?
So that was, I would literally bargain with myself to get myself to do a jump. And I think that when I did that, I was so focused on the outcome, and I was thinking about the jump as a whole, and it was really intimidating to me. And so then you kind of have to start breaking up the jump. Like, all right, what are you focusing on this jump? What technical movement are you trying to remind yourself of while you're doing this jump? Because, like, you guys all probably know, but every second on this ice, it's expensive. Skating is a really expensive sport. So like, my mom would just be going crazy as she watched me circle and circle. And she's like, okay, you can do crossovers, but can you do a double axel? So you also just have to think like, all right, I only have so much time on the ice, make the most of it, and then just try and focus on a technical correction instead of like, am I going to land or fall on this jump, right? All right, another question? Yeah.
Is there any like tips to help stop popping or something?
I hate popping with a burning passion. It is the worst habit that any of you guys can get started on, and all of you guys that are young, don't start. Don't let yourself get into the habit because it's the worst. I would have to say, because I like from the start never let myself do that, you have to hold yourself to a higher standard. I think that's genuinely what it comes down to. Like, if you're popping because you have put yourself into a really weird spot and you're going to end up getting hurt if you rotate, that's totally understandable. But I think just like popping because you're not pulling in, that means that you're not 100% dedicated to that jump when you go into the jump. And that's when things start to go wrong. And that's where I see the weirdest injuries are when people are just going into a jump, they're not totally committed, they pop, they come forward on their foot, and what happens to their foot? So I would say you have to hold yourself to just a higher standard and say like, all right, this is a habit, I'm gonna break. Okay? Yes?
Do you enjoy competing or like Stars on Ice shows more?
Oh, they're so different. I would say towards the end of my career, I didn't enjoy competing that much. I love performing. That's why I skate. Like, I love that moment when you're out in the middle of the ice and you feel everyone's eyes on you and you know that you can make someone feel the way that you want them to feel. I think that that is such a cool, powerful moment. And so for a while, competing gave that to me, but Stars, like, it's just so relaxed, it's so fun. I love the lights, I love the costumes. So I think that competing and Stars gave me different things in the sport, but like now, absolutely, I'd rather go to Stars on Ice. Competing is hard, and I have so much respect for you guys because it is so mentally tough, and I don't think that there is another sport on the face of this planet that puts their athletes through what figure skating does. So, yeah.
Were you homeschooled?
No. So I went to school the whole way through. My mom was a 4th and 5th grade teacher, and we moved to Washington, D.C. in 5th grade. So she was like, all right, we're going to try out homeschool for a year, and by the end of the year, I was begging to go back to school. I think that, you know, different strokes for different folks. I think it just kind of depends on what works best with an athlete's schedule, but I think it's really important to stay in school because for me, it gave me a life beyond the rink. It gave me friends beyond the rink. It gave me perspective because at the end of the day, this is an amazing sport, but also it's just skating. So
how did you fit it all in?
So I was lucky that by the time I was competing senior, I was high school, and I got out of PE, and by my senior year, PE and an elective. So it just kind of worked out with my schedule that I still went to school, but I went to school for the not fun stuff, and then all the fun classes I was skating. So sacrifices we make for these. Yes.
Spinning. What's your favorite spin? How important do you feel spins are? Everybody puts such a heavy weight on jump.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about spinning down?
Yeah. I hate spinning so much. Hate it so much. It's the worst.
Yes,
but spins are so ridiculously valuable. I have had girls beat me based on spins alone. And I mean, it has come down to that where we'll both do a program that is pretty similar, and then this girl goes and outspins me, and she gets the medal. So it really can come down to your spins, and the way that I combated hating spins is I set 15 minutes aside at the end of my day where all I did was spins, and I made sure that I did it every single day because they're the worst. They're not fun. If you love spinning, I'm jealous of you. I just don't like it at all. But they are really valuable, and losing points on spins they're some of the silliest points to give up, so make sure you put the work into your spins because I have lost national titles because of my spins. I won't mention it here, but that's what happens. All right, yes?
When did you first get your single axle?
My single axle, great question. So I got my single axle when I was 7. And it took me like a year-ish to get. But for how many of you guys are working on your axles right now? You guys got it? Yes. Oh wow, look at you go, you guys. But yeah, like I said, everybody is different. So just because it took me a year to get my single axle doesn't mean it has to take a year. And if it takes longer than a year, then you cannot do this sport. Like it's different for everybody. Did you have a question?
Yeah. What was the first triple that you landed, and when did you land it?
I landed my triple sow before I got my double axle.
Oh, that's way opposite.
So I landed my triple sow on the warm-up at regionals. Yeah. And then I was so excited about that I lost all my doubles. So you can imagine that my mom was very confused as to what went down that day. And I was like so excited about my triple sow that all of a sudden I forgot how to do doubles. So, and to this day I can't do doubles. Yes.
How do you feel about all the girls doing quads now?
I think it's awesome. I think that it's really cool. I do think that it limits athletes like myself a little bit just because you look at all those girls who are doing quads and they are all this big because that's just physically what needs to happen in order for a woman to rotate a quad right now. I think that any progress in the sport is cool. I just think that it's going to kind of kill the longevity of the athletes. And how can you become a fan of a athlete if they're gone after 2 seasons? So I mean, I think it's great, but I think that it's not. Something else has to change as well. That's a great question. Yes.
How did you go about switching coaches and why?
So earlier in my career, I had to switch coaches just because we were moving around so much. I moved 9 times in 10 years. So it's a lot of coaches. And what my parents would do is they would ask my current coach if they knew anybody in the general area that we were going to, and then we would like do a tryout and then pretty much stick with that coach. And that was fine when I was younger. When I was getting up into the higher levels, I believe that some coaches can, if it's the right athlete, they can take the athlete all the way through, and then sometimes you need a different coach at a certain point in your career, and that's absolutely okay. It's kind of like relationships. I've never found an easy way to be like, thanks for all the memories. I appreciate everything you do. I'm gonna go try this new coach out. I don't think there's like an easy way to do that, but I found that, you know, I worked with Priscilla Hill and she really taught me a lot about technique, and then I moved on to John Nix and he turned me into the performer that I am today, and then Mr. Nix was like, I'm gonna retire the year of the Olympics, and I was like, that's great for you. And then that kind of brought me to Raphael, and then Raphael finishing out my career. I don't think I would have lasted as long without him. So I think it's just kind of, you have to be mindful of what you need, and be respectful of the coach that you are working with, and mindful of what they have done for your athlete's career as well. Yeah. I'm gonna answer his, then you. Okay.
We have to stop because we have.
Oh, well then, how about?
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Isabella.
How much years have you been skating?
I've been skating for 23 years. How old are you?
9.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been doing it for a while. All right, do you want to, what was your question?
I was just going to ask if you incorporated ballet into your training.
For me, not so much, but that was because financially things were really tight. So I didn't really take a ton of dance or anything like that, but I think it's super powerful.
Turn that on. Get it.
Alright, thank you.
This is the end of the video. I hope that you guys enjoyed, and that maybe if you had any of these questions, you got your answer finally. And anyways, I want you guys to comment down below. Were you guys thinking about these questions, or did she answer any of the questions that you might have had that were a little bit different than anyone else asked in this video? Anyways, also don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. I love you guys. Bye!